This is the INSDRGN A14 electric bike. I've been using this for a while now, so I figured I'd share some thoughts. At a basic level, it's a small-wheel folding e-bike meant for adults and teens who want something that fits into real life without needing a garage-sized storage space. If you're commuting a few miles, running errands, or you just want a bike you can keep in an apartment or toss into a trunk, this is the kind of bike that makes sense. If you're looking for a lightweight bike you can carry upstairs every day, I'm going to be straight with you early on. This one is not light. It folds, but it still has that two hands careful with your back vibe when you lift it. What made me curious about it is that it's a folding bike with 14-inch wheels, but it doesn't ride like the super stiff, bouncy little folders I've tried in the past. The other thing is the assist behavior. It's not the type of bike where I'm constantly fiddling with settings to get a comfortable amount of help. It feels more like it's trying to match what I'm doing, which matters more than any spec sheet explanation. Physically, it has a solid, dense feel. The frame is high-carbon steel, and you notice that the moment you pick it up or roll it over a curb. It doesn't feel flimsy at the hinge points, which is something I always pay attention to on folding bikes. The folding mechanism on mine has been consistent. It locks up with a reassuring clunk, and I haven't had that annoying sensation of the frame flexing under power. The finish on my black version has held up fine to regular handling. Leaning it against walls, sliding it into a car trunk, that kind of thing. It still gets scuffs like any bike, but nothing that made me worry about rust or paint flaking right away. Because the wheels are 14 inches, the bike has this compact, almost moped-like silhouette. It's approachable. When I park it outside a cafe or bring it near an office lobby, it doesn't look like a huge bicycle taking over the space. The trade-off with small wheels is stability over rough stuff, and I'll get to that. But just in terms of living with it day to day, the size is the whole point. Setup was mostly painless, but not perfect. Mine came mostly put together, and I was riding it the same day. The part that took time was the brakes. They're dual disc, and out of the box I had some rotor rub. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was the kind of scraping sound that will drive you nuts if you ignore it. I had to loosen and recenter the calipers and make sure the cables weren't over-tensioned. Once I got that sorted, the braking felt strong and predictable. But there's a learning curve, because the bike can stop very quickly for its size. With small wheels, that stopping power feels even more immediate. The first couple rides, I had to remind myself to squeeze gradually instead of grabbing a handful. Daily use is where the A14 started making sense to me. I usually ride it for short trips, a few miles to pick something up, a loop around the neighborhood, or a commute that mixes bike paths and typical city streets with patchy pavement. The motor help is enough that I don't feel like I'm grinding at every incline. I've ridden it up some steep streets where I normally have to stand and work on a regular bike, and here I can stay seated and keep a steady pace. It tops out around 20 miles per hour, which in real traffic is actually a practical ceiling. It's fast enough to move with the flow on many streets, but not so fast that it feels like it's constantly daring you to do something dumb. Range is one of those things that depends on how you ride, and I don't like pretending there's one magic number. My battery is the 48-volt 10.4 amp-hour removable pack. If I'm cruising and helping the bike with my legs, I can get through my normal week of short trips with a couple charges and not think about it. If I ride hard, lean on the motor a lot, or keep it pinned near top speed, the battery drops quicker than you'd hope. That's normal for a compact e-bike, but it's worth saying out loud. I've found the most reliable way to stretch it is to treat the motor like assistance, not a replacement for pedaling. Charging has been easy because the battery is removable. That matters if you don't have an outlet where you store the bike. I can bring the battery inside and charge it without dragging the whole bike into my living space. On my unit, the charge time has felt like plug it in after dinner and it's good later, not something I need to schedule my entire day around. The battery has a key lock, which I appreciate mostly for peace of mind when I'm parked outside for a short stop. I still don't leave it unattended forever, but I like that it's not just a quick-release pack someone can slide out in 2 seconds. The biggest comfort surprise is the suspension. This bike has multiple shock points, and you can actually feel it working. On rough city pavement, expansion joints, and the kind of cracks that usually make small-wheel bikes feel jittery, this one takes the edge off. It doesn't turn potholes into pillows, but it reduces that constant buzzing that can make a short ride feel longer than it should. The seat area also feels less punishing than I expected from a compact frame. After longer rides, I still notice the smaller wheelbase and the compact geometry. but I'm not getting beat up the way I do on a lot of little folders. Handling is quick. With 14-inch wheels, it changes direction easily, which I like in tight spaces. It's good for weaving through bike racks, navigating narrow paths, and doing careful turns in crowded areas. The downside is that small wheels don't roll over debris as confidently. If there's loose gravel, chunky sidewalk transitions, or unexpected pothole edges, I slow down more than I would on a 26-inch bike. It's not unstable, it's just less forgiving. You have to ride a little more alert, and I'd rather be honest about that than pretend it's the same as a full-size commuter bike. One real-life annoyance I ran into was a bit of rattling around the battery area when I hit rough patches. It wasn't constant, but on certain surfaces, it showed up. I fixed it with a small piece of padding where the battery sits, and that solved it for me. I'm mentioning it because it's the kind of thing you only notice after a few rides, and it can make the bike feel cheaper than it actually is until you address it. Another practical thing, the bike's weight. Even though it folds down small enough to store easily, lifting it is the hardest part of portable. I can get it into a trunk without too much drama, but if you're carrying it upstairs daily, you're going to feel it. For me it works, because I can roll it most of the time, and only lift it occasionally. If your living situation requires frequent carrying, I'd think hard about that. On the smart side, the assist behavior feels adaptive when I'm riding. I can't prove what it's doing internally, but I can describe what it feels like. When I hit a hill or my cadence drops, the bike seems to add help in a smoother way than a basic on-off cadence system. It's less jerky. It makes stop-and-go riding less tiring, especially when I'm starting from a red light and trying to get up to speed without wobbling. I'm not using a mobile app with this bike, and I'm honestly fine with that. For something I'm using as transportation, I'd rather it work every time with the controls on the bike than rely on my phone being connected. Safety-wise, I like that it's UL 2849 listed. That doesn't make it invincible, but for an e-bike battery and electrical system, I take that seriously, because it's not just about performance. It's about charging in your home without worrying as much. So after spending real time with it, here's where I land. The A14 is for someone who wants a compact folding e-bike that rides more comfortably than most small wheel options, and who values easy storage and a removable battery. It's not for someone who needs a featherweight carry-up-the-stairs commuter. It's also not the bike I'd pick for rough trails or loose surfaces where bigger wheels are simply better. What it is, in my experience, is a practical city runabout that feels solid, stops strongly, and takes the sting out of broken pavement better than I expected. If you've ridden one of these, or you've got questions about how it behaves in a specific situation, hills, commuting, storing it in a small apartment, drop a comment, and I'll try to help based on what I've actually seen using it. And if this video was useful, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment.